Okay, I have to bring this up. I'm playing the new Horizon game, right? I'm playing it. I'm loving it. Great game. Loving it. Loving it in 4K with all the HDR and all that. That's cool stuff. Love this game. PS5, love the PS5. Look, why? Why are the buttons arranged this way? Okay, so I had to go into the menu and customize things because by default, for some reason, they think that this should be the melee attack and that's the ranged attack. And I get it because you're only going to do one of but hear me out. Here's why I've swapped melee and weapon swap. Because while you're aiming a ranged weapon, right, you're gonna maybe want to change out what the weapon is, but you can't unless you switch to using your middle finger and then you're pressing that to get the weapon wheel up. And I don't know, I usually aim with my trigger finger, so it felt kind of weird to do that. And I guess I know you're supposed to aim with your middle finger, but I can't. It's a trigger, it just feels better in the... So to me, it makes sense that this now becomes melee. And maybe I'm crazy, but I'm not having to aim while I'm doing melee, right? So I don't... the same logic of, well, you don't have to shoot your bow while you're doing a melee attack applies here. I don't have to aim my bow while I'm doing a melee attack. So it makes sense for the melee to be the thing my trigger finger moves up to do. So instead of aim, right? So that's aim. And then that's melee. Out of the box, why wasn't this even one of the options? Swap these two buttons around. It just, I don't know. It just, to me, logically, it makes sense because over here, the weapon wheel, you're going to want to have access to the weapon wheel while you're aiming because it's I want to change out my arrows. I want to craft arrows. Arrow crafting is made from the weapon wheel menu. This does everything. This is a very crucial thing. So a right-handed person is going to want to have access to this all the time. I might even consider it being more of a face button thing, but right now it works being on that trigger. It did not make sense to have it on the left trigger, especially when I'm aiming, I'm using my hands. I'm thinking with, this right hand, I'm thinking okay, well, this is going to be to attack things, etc. And again, that's a melee attack, I get it, but when you're in the ranged menu, you're aiming, that's how you do a ranged attack. So it just works better. Also, I'm not sure why motion aiming isn't on by default because it's one of the best ways to aim in a video game, in my opinion. But maybe that's because I played a lot of Splatoon and Splatoon 2, so I'm just used to it at this point, and Nintendo has forced me to love this form of aiming. But I digress. Either way, I do love the accessibility options available, and I like how diverse the game is as a whole. It's a really good game. I just think that one little thing bothers me enough that I had to make a video about it, which is these two buttons, this button over here and the button on the left side, can't show while holding camera with hand, but yes, the left and right buttons, the top bumpers, swapping them around, everything just feels better, especially in a game where ranged attacks are frankly more frequently used than melee attacks. I mean, Aloy's a hunter. She fights with a bow. I understand you gave her melee weapons and melee attacks. It just really, most of the time when you're in combat, you're going to want this. And maybe there's an argument for, I guess, play style. But I am glad they let me customize those controls. I'm just sad that there wasn't a right off the bat way to swap that out at the start in the menu settings. I had to really navigate the menus to get to these. So you have to go to settings. Then I had to figure out okay, it's under controls, right? No, it's not. It's under accessibility, I think, and that's where you go to set your controls at, if I'm not mistaken. It's customize controls somewhere. Yeah, button layouts. So instead of putting your control settings under controls, you have to do it under accessibility. So that's a bit backwards and distracting. But though it's okay, so we're going to accessibility options. Okay, so then it's what do we do to customize this? And I'm seeing all these things on the screen, and I'm are any of these relevant? Is this? And it's no, you have to go to the bottom, select custom, and it's oh, okay, and then you have to hit X. Nope, sorry, square, which is, I don't know, square doesn't seem very intuitive. X I can understand, but square, anyway. So you hit square, and then that gives you the list of control options. And then you set your controls, so I was able to swap left and right. But when I did that, it then said, oh, there's going to be some interference, because apparently there's multiple uses of that trigger for light melee attacks. And it's oh, so I have to set this over and over and over again. Kind of weird. I don't know. That to me was kind of an interesting experience, but also a little tedious. But anyway, I digress. Out of the box, did all that, and I'm good now, and I'm happy, and I think it's been a good game so far. The only other thing I have that might be a dumb complaint is that the opening cutscene it's not in 4K. I think it's maybe in. I don't want to say it's in 720, but it looked pretty garbled compared to the rest of the game, showing like scenes from the first game. And I know, video compression is important, digital downloads and all that stuff, and it's the first thing loaded in the game. But I don't know if you want your first like opening visual to look like a bad MPEG compression, but I know the rest of it after that's great. Obviously, this is stunning, it's stellar, it's a good game, blah blah blah. But I don't have any other complaints about it so far. Other than that, obviously, I do have complaints about games where there's so much hand-holding and everything's on rails, and yet you promise to be open world. And I understand that it turns into an open world game, but it always happens at the moment where you're kind of done with the tutorial and you don't want an open world game. You want to extend the story out. It always feels like it happens too late. Whereas Breath of the Wild starts you out with the ability to have open world immediately. You can do the dungeons in any order, and there's just a sort of suggested order that's given to you by proximity. And I know you can study Nintendo game design for years and learn so much more from how they do things, where they teach you through actual experience, as opposed to let's tell you about what happened and then hold your hand and walk you through this step by step until you've got it all mastered. But that's other complaints for another video. That's all I had to say. My only real complaint right now is bumpers. That's it. And then the rest, I guess, just goes to modern game design problems that Nintendo solved decades ago and we're still learning from, apparently, in the West, I guess. I don't know. That's it. That's all I got. Horizon Zero Dawn. No, sorry. Horizon Forbidden West. That's the one. It's a game. It's on the PlayStation 5. It's fun, I guess.